is the former president of CNN Productions, the first woman president and CEO of PBS. She was the first woman, yes, to launch, produce, and host her own nationally syndicated program, Woman to Woman. Pat Mitchell has created and produced the annual 10 Women. If you have never watched it, must watch. And her awards include multiple Emmy Awards, 5 Peabodys, and 2 Academy Award nominations. Please welcome Pat Mitchell.
Made this day come together. We are here rising together. I am so thrilled to be back in the state of my birth and the hometown of my heart, Atlanta, Georgia, and to rise with all of you on this great day. Last year I was in New York with the founder of V-Day and the woman who first envisioned 1 Billion Rising, Eve Ensler, and we danced in the streets of Manhattan with thousands of women and men. The year before, we were in the Democratic Republic of Congo, dancing with the thousands of women and girls whose bodies are being the battleground for the war that's been going on there for 18 years. For those women, for the women in New York, for the women and men all over the world today who are rising with us, Atlanta stands as a great symbol of what can happen when a city, a community, a state says, no more violence. We are going to raise our voices, move our bodies, sing our songs, and by the way, Salmon Fly, what a fabulous new anthem. Oh, rise up. The music, the art, the dance, the poetry, everyone comes together on this day to say, we are moving in our bodies, and it is our right to claim that these bodies will be safe and free from violence on whatever street we walk on whatever home we live in, and wherever we place ourselves. We must be free from the fear of violence and the actuality of violence. 1 Billion Rising started as a dream that would recognize by its celebrations what 1 billion people look like. It's so easy to hear the statistic 1 in 3 women, 1 billion women and girls. But when Eve said, what does 1 billion look like? Let's remind the world every day on Valentine's Day what 1 billion people look like. That's how many people are not living free of violence or the fear of violence every year on this earth. And that is what 1 Billion Rising does. It reminds us of how many lives we are destroying, how much potential is being lost in this world year after year. And as the risings have started over these last 3 years, the activists in every community, as happened here, have decided what the greatest need is, where to place the focus, the emphasis, how to tell the story best for that community. And the first year it was rising in dance and song, and the second year was about social justice, and this year it's about revolution, or as Atlanta calls it, evolution, the evolution of the paradigm that allows us to live with the fact that 1 billion women and girls are sexually assaulted, raped, or abused every year in this world. We must call for the evolution of that paradigm, for the revolution in all of our culture that allows this to continue to be a reality, and that is why we are here today together. Eve asked me to remind you so that you would feel the unity, the global movement that we're a part of, to remind you what is happening all over the world as we sit here and as we dance here and as we walk through the streets of Atlanta. It started in Australia at dawn, and it will go all across the world until the sun sets on the other side of the world. And I just want to share with you just a couple of examples of the videos we've already seen coming in and of the people who are gathered in solidarity with the women and men and children of Atlanta, Georgia. In many places, they are rising to end the abuse in their families. In the Philippines, they are rising to oust their president. In many places, they are rising for the power of love rather than the love of power. In some places, they are rising to save their rivers, and others to save their mountains. Some are rising to demand wage increases, especially this year. We are in solidarity with the restaurant workers who are paid the lowest minimum wage and who must rely on tips and therefore often the victims of sexual harassment. In fact, sexual harassment is higher in the restaurant industry than in any other. Domestic workers are rising everywhere to end modern-day slavery. Workers everywhere are rising for long-term jobs and benefits, and women are rising outside prisons to demand justice. Pakistan rose for peace. Vets are rising all across America to end rapes in the military. There's a red light rising in Calcutta. Millions are rising to end poverty, racism, imperialism, colonialism, all connected, all interconnected, all associated with violence. Men are rising everywhere to put their bodies on the line for their sisters, their wives, their mothers, their daughters. They're rising to say to the world, what happens to women's bodies matter. From Mexico to Miami to right here in Atlanta, Georgia, we are rising to end sex trafficking. Native American women are rising to end fracking in the oil fields and the direct connection to sex trafficking there and to the abuse. Trans women are rising to end the murders and the violence in their community. There's a rock revolution going on in Las Vegas. There's a tango revolution going on in Peru. And there is one heart drum event that began this morning that was picked up here by our amazing drummers and that now will continue to the sunsets at the other end. They're rising now at the pyramids in Mexico, in the malls in Japan, on college squares and churches, outside corporations, and inside City Hall, where we are today. So just a reminder, we rise to end sex trafficking in this state. It must end. We rise to end the domestic violence that is filling our shelters to overflowing. We are rising to give voice to the survivors of rape and to demand justice for them and all other women and girls whose rights to live free and without fear have been compromised or in jeopardy. We have so many great visionaries that we celebrate when we come together in community like this. In Atlanta, the great Martin Luther King led the revolution for civil rights. And another great man whose place is right down the street, who once served our country as president and who is now one of the greatest humanitarians in the world, President Jimmy Carter. He recently called in his book, A Call to Action. If you haven't read it, please do. Women, religion, violence, and power, all connected. He says, we must act in every way needed to ensure that all women and girls have the opportunity to fully realize their potential, because it is women and girls, the full engagement of educated girls, empowered women, that will unlock the potential for all of us together to solve the complex challenges of our times. Friends, that's what revolution looks like. Women and girls and the men who love them working together. to create a peaceful, prosperous, non-violent, sustainable world. Rise!